All right, welcome to Tips Live this week. We're here with Lori Taylor, who is the founder of the Produce Moms. Welcome, Lori.
Hi, Chris. It's so good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, good to have you. We're excited to hear about you today. For all of those that know you, some that may not know you, you've built a brand called the Produce Moms that's had exciting growth and success over the past few years. If you want to maybe kind of introduce the audience to how that started and where it came from.
Yeah, so it's the Produce Moms today it's really the first and only consumer brand that's fully focused on increasing the consumption of fruits and vegetables and driving sales of fresh produce at grocery retail and various other channels. It's been a passion of mine. It started obviously rooted in the education. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the United States. I worked at a local Midwest company, Indianapolis Fruit Company, sister company to Piazza Produce. More than likely, anyone tuning in from Central Indiana, you've seen the trucks on the highway or at your outside your favorite restaurant or local grocery store. I learned that's where I learned everything about produce. Because I was the sales representative or the broker that was reaching out to the produce department managers at all of these different retailers, educating them on what products they needed to buy to put into their stores. And I always felt like my work was a bigger purpose. Like I never saw it as transactional or clerical. Like I never really felt like, oh, this job should just be online ordering. It really was, it just immediately connected with me. And I just saw what I was doing in such a bigger light. I think that the reason for that is because food is, in my household and in so many American households, food is the only culture we have. It's not like other parts of the world where there's a really deep, national heritage. We're kind of the, melting pot of the whole globe here in the US. And sometimes our only family culture is rooted in the foods that we serve and the recipes that we pass down, or the way that we celebrate certain holidays with specific dishes. And to me, that cultural side of food is just so fascinating. And then also, as I became in college, I studied Spanish, and so I had some immersion programs. I lived in Mexico and in Cuba studying in different programs at the University of Guanajuato and the University of Havana. And during those immersion programs, and then also as I've traveled other places as an adult, it's really amazing to me as I identify that fresh produce is the common denominator for people all around the globe. Every socioeconomic status, every region of this world. There's not a doctor telling you to eliminate our food. So even people of all different types of health classifications, and there's no religion telling you to eliminate fruits or vegetables from your lifestyle. So it's we really, again, it comes back to me seeing our industry in such a bigger light. And that passion started during my days at the sales desk, and certainly today it's at the helm of what we do. The Produce Moms has grown. Started as a very basic free WordPress blog. Like if you have, I have somewhere in my USPTO binder where we've got all our trademark paperwork and stuff. I've got like, oh my gosh, the screenshots of the first website. And I just can't even believe the growth that we've had since the day we published that first blog. A little thing that's a little bit, one thing that's unique about my journey is my business. This business actually started as work for hire. It was my role as marketing manager at Indianapolis Fruit Company. I pitched the idea of starting a consumer-facing blog, along with ideas and strategies on how we could potentially monetize it. And that's really how it began. And we built it together for 3 years with my former employer. And then after 3 years, I mean, they're in the business of distributing food, moving it from point A to point B. It was always a little bit like, does marketing even make sense here? You're the middleman. Like, you literally, every penny counts, So, And my former employers, I look back on it now and I totally agree with their decision. But in the moment, I was heartbroken when they told me in 2015 they were done with the produce moms. I mean, I cried when they told me that. And they gave me two options. One was to go back to my job as a sales representative, and the other was to acquire the brand, buy it. And I obviously, like, my mind was made up in the moment. The thought of not continuing with what I had built for 3 years, as if it was my own, really. I mean, I had their fullest support the whole time, but you don't you don't do the things that we were doing if you don't have that entrepreneur passion and foresight to keep it going and growing. So I was like, I'm buying it. And that whole story, you can read the whole story, is available on the Produce Moms podcast and some other media stuff that I've done. It's episode 1 of our podcast shows the whole story. And it's really profound because I paid more for my idea than the home my family and I live in. This is a real estate broadcast. So all of these realtors tuning in can probably appreciate that. Like, oh my gosh, wow, you do have that entrepreneur crazy. And we did. I mean, I cashed out 401k, I borrowed money, and it was like we had bought a home, except it wasn't a home. It was a binder of intellectual property and federal registrations and copyrights and a website that had not even a fraction of the footprint that we have today. And
So
I,
at that time, sorry to jump in, but that's really interesting because you were working with the retailers that sold to the consumers.
yeah.
But you became a brand that was consumer facing, like you said, and something that you had built up, and there seems to be so much passion behind it that would cause you to make such a leap of faith into this. Tell me about maybe what was inside of you, just telling you that this is my life passion, that I'm going to risk it all to. Because I mean, you obviously did.
Yeah, it never really felt like work. I mean, it was always an adventure, and a lot of people don't know this. I bought the URL, theproducemom.com, because at the beginning it was the Produce Mom singular. I bought that like 3 months before I pitched it to my bosses as an idea for our marketing department. Like, I just felt like it was a huge void. Our industry, there's a lot of confusion around food. There's a call for more transparency around food. I believe in all of that. I mean, I'm a mom, I'm a consumer. We're all consumers, right? At the end of the day, we're all consumers, even of our own industry. And I felt like as an industry, we needed to, have a better platform to reach consumers. Because if you think about it, even if you follow your favorite grocery store for their consumer facing marketing, a very small fraction of that is going to be about what's in the produce department. You're going to see a lot about like what beer's on sale and what's happening in the frozen foods aisle and what meat is on sale. And fruits and vegetables they're the first thing you see when you walk into the grocery store, and it is absolutely the category that is going to sustain brick and mortar grocery more so than any other sector of the food and beverage industry. It's produce, and so that's there's so many reasons why they should, as retailers, be investing more in fruits and vegetables, but everything's driven by the dollar, and you're not making a whole lot off of your 49-cent bananas the same way that you are your $22 fillets in the meat department, So I just felt like our industry, there was a void. I couldn't believe it, actually, because it was 2012 and I was looking online, like, there's got to be someplace for me to go to get more information online in the format that I, as a millennial mom, want to consume my information: social media, newsletters, interactive websites, and nothing was there that was comprehensive. I mean, I could certainly opt into what Sunkist was doing to learn about citrus fruits, or Chiquita about bananas, or Ocean Miss Farms about artichokes, but like, there's over 200 items in your standard produce department. Who's got time for that? No one, And furthermore, most consumers don't know. Most people can't name a single brand from the produce department, or if they can, maybe 5, like Dole, Chiquita, Sunkist, maybe Driscoll, maybe Nature Sweet Tomatoes. And that's about where it ends with brand recognition in produce, you know. Del Monte, but Del Monte is a brand that kind of became famous in the canned food aisle, you know, the same way Dole became famous through the fruit cups. You know, it's crazy how low the brand recognition is for a consumer product that we all buy with so much volume and velocity, you know. So that's where I discovered the, you know, entrepreneurial opportunity. And it's grown ever since. 2015 was obviously the biggest pivot. But I'll tell you what, April 2020, amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, it's another moment where like I'm really evaluating everything that we're doing, figuring out how do we stay relevant. You know, if you're not pivoting, you're losing right now, and you've got to become more innovative with your really everything. Like how are you making your customers' lives easier, your customers' lives easier? How are you helping people through this unprecedented time? All of those are, you know, things that we're considering as we try to come out and just make ourselves an indispensable part of the value chain, whether we want to be part of the value chain for the end consumer, you know, the home cook like me, when they're thinking, what am I going to serve my family for dinner? How am I going to know what fruits and vegetables are in season? I'm, you know, using COVID-19 as an example. A lot of people were confused about if the virus is transmitted through fruits or vegetables. It's not. Science tells us that. But irregardless, they were coming to us with inquiry. So we have to be, you know, top of mind with delivering people the facts and the content that they need to continue their consumer behaviors and lifestyles. And then also indispensable value for America's farmers, making sure that the fruit and vegetable growers, I mean, they got to focus on farming. I learned that at the sales desk as someone who was selling their products to the retailers. And, you know, even as someone in the sales supply chain for over a decade, I was like, I don't know anything about this brand. You know, I have no idea why you as the produce department manager at this grocery store should buy it. Like, I have no clue why it's superior to, you know, why this brand of watermelon is superior to other brands. And there are stories like that in American ag. I mean, you got to think some of these growers, like we work with some Central Valley, California growers. They've been farming, Chris, since like the mid 1800s. Wow. And it's still in the same family today. I mean, It's the most amazing. There's some amazing stories, and specialty crop agriculture is over 90% family-owned farms still today in the United States. So you want to support, you know, the narrative of let's support local, let's support family-owned. That's farming, you know.
The heartbeat of America, yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely. I've learned so much in my journey. I absolutely love what I have seen and the unique places I've gone, the incredible people I've met. There's just something about working with people who share that same passion as you do. You know, we're connected through our passion for fresh produce. Everyone that is in agriculture, for the most part, everyone really views it as mission-driven work. I mean, it's really hard work because it never stops. You know, the crops aren't going to harvest themselves out of the field, and it doesn't matter if it's raining or if it's frost or if it's a pandemic. You know, you got to figure out what you're going to do, and there is no end to that workday. And so it's you know, it's like salt of the earth type of people who we're still today in our industry. Multi-million-dollar deals are done on a daily basis on a handshake. You know, farmers are loading up a truckload of sweet corn in Florida and shipping it up to Indianapolis on a handshake. You know, I mean, yes, there are federal laws that protect them, that say, like, if, you know, people can't screw you over because this is the only way we can do the job. Like, it's a fresh living, highly perishable product. Like, we have to make sure that both stages of both members of the transaction are protected. You know, the farmer as well as you know, the retailer, the wholesale distributor, whoever they're selling their product to. So I mean, it never stops, which I think is another reason it kind of fuels me. And I think a lot of your colleagues in real estate can connect with that. Like, these are not easy industries. You know, it's the ultimate, you're always on call, almost as if you're like a life-saving cardiologist, right? Like, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. You're like, it's just food. Or maybe in the mindset that you and your colleagues have, it's like, it's just real estate. But yet none of us stop, you know? So it's like the hustle is so real. And so, I mean, I guess I mentioned in 2015, I bought the brand. We've been growing pretty much ever since. The business is, you know, today we are reaching around, I mean, our web traffic and everything has risen a lot with the home cook surge. We are now up to, on a monthly basis, we're averaging at least 60,000 unique monthly visitors. In the month of April 2020, we're on track to have 70,000 unique monthly visitors. These are visitors from all 50 states, all over the world. Our podcast has been downloaded in over 70 countries. That's like 1/4 of the world has tuned into our podcast at the Produce Moms. And we have, you know, through our entire social media footprint, we're reaching, you know, 3.5 million people per month of active engaged users. So that's, all of those things are, you know, when you see numbers like that, it's like, wow, I've got a real responsibility now. You know, a lot of people are counting on me, both from the consumer side as well as the producer side. Our customers right now, the vast majority of our income comes from the growers and the other strategic brands that we work with. My business works in an enterprise-wide relationship with the Kroger company, supporting them on strategies and marketing and public affairs as it relates to Fresh for Everyone, Food is Medicine, and the Kroger Health banner within the company. And then we also work with Viacom CBS on a North American partnership that is focused on Nickelodeon, where we are supporting Nickelodeon in their quest to kind of balance the way that they're marketing food to kids. Because if you go into the grocery store or tune into their programming, a lot of the products that they're either advertising or that have, you know, a licensed branded product on shelf, it's a lot of the consumer products are, you know, junk food, fun for you food. It's stuff like fruit snacks and frozen foods, and certainly not fresh produce, or and very little in the better for you category. And prior to me working with Viacom, they had just one partner in the best for you category of foods, and now we've increased that by 300%. So they're really growing, and they're seeing the same way we view the produce. Like, I coach my team, we have a responsibility. We have, we've kind of been a catalyst for Nickelodeon, realizing that they have a responsibility too. No one in the world talks to more kids per day than Nickelodeon. So I'm really excited about what we're doing there to support them. And but the vast majority of the income or the business side of what we do, it comes from America's fruit and vegetable growers. They work with us in sponsorship style. We call them brand partnerships. I'm much bigger, I'm big on the concept of partnership. It's how I've built this business. And so I don't really like the term sponsorships, but technically it's a sponsorship. Okay. So they engage with me and my colleagues, the Produce Moms business platform, to create custom content and promote their brand, tell their stories from the various growing regions. It's really interesting. Even though I'm a born and bred Hoosier, like, I don't ever see myself leaving this state. We have absolutely no income from the state of Indiana. So right now the business, our customer footprint is 80% California growers, followed by Washington State, followed by Florida, followed by Texas, followed by Mexico. So and then we have the closest that we get to Indiana is we have a grower that is Grand Rapids based that we work with, but they farm throughout North, Central, and South America. So it's a very small time of year where we're able to really promote fruits and vegetables that are from the Midwest in partnership with a grower. But also, you got to think, we're working mostly with farms that are 20,000 acres and above. Some of the farms we work with, their farming operations bigger than the city of Indianapolis. So these are, we don't have that style of farming in Indianapolis or in Indiana even, like we would in soybeans or other commodity crops, but not in specialty crops, which is fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, and flowers. So the regions I stated are the regions where that's the high production regions. That's where those are the American farmers that are not just supplying our nation with all those fruits and vegetables, but really the world. A lot of them are exporting their products throughout the entire world. So it's been incredible to learn so much about just the ag and food trade. I mean, it's a political industry. I think everyone's learned that, from the trade wars to, amidst COVID-19, like how are we going to get the funding to mobilize school meals? How are we going to get the funding to support the influx in nutrition assistance that's going to be needed? Because that certainly correlates with the unemployment rate, So I in 2016 is when I started doing political action. And I realized, if you want to be a leader, you gotta walk the, you gotta get out there and do the leader type things. And I'm not paid. I'm not a paid lobbyist by anyone. I'm actually paid to be part of United Fresh Pack. It's an organization that that promotes fresh produce and nutrition programs. So I support the PAC both in dollars and time. And in the amount of time that I've been active with United Fresh Pack, I've pretty much risen. I'm probably the #2 lobbyist in the United States now as it relates to child nutrition policy. And my area of focus is USDA school meals. We have other people that represent like WIC or SNAP and EBT. The USDA AMS programs that became, more part of the public eye during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, but I'm really passionate that school meals are, right now, first time ever in the United States, over 50% of our population qualifies for free or reduced lunch. So if we're getting down to like, what's the sustainable food supply chain in the US? Where do most of the amount of kids know they're getting their next meal? It's schools. And so what are we doing in school meals? And really, school meals are that is actually, you can't get a better environment to turn kids into healthy eaters than school meals, because they do have, I know like the narrative is, oh, they're disgusting, or like, and Chris, it's come a long way from the square pizza days of our childhood. So you're starting to see more scratch cooking, more salad bars. And it's, there's certainly a lot of requirements about every meal has to include fruits and vegetables. And I'm a constant advocate for that. We don't want to lose the half-cup serving size with every meal that's served at schools. But I actually take it a step further with my passion and my knowledge of produce. We want more of the fruits and vegetables to be served in the fresh form and less served in the canned or processed form. So, so that's really the political action side of what we do. And then
it's good.
We do media. I was a little late to this recording today, Chris, because I was filming Indy Style from my home kitchen. Everything's so different now, but I've been on Indy Style for 9 years. Last Christmas 2019, I did a Hallmark Christmas special in Los Angeles with the Hallmark Channel. I've been on like 20 affiliates throughout the US. And probably the biggest thing, and COVID-19 has disrupted the launch of this, but we now have a licensed branded product in distribution nationwide. So we're working with Crunch Pack. It's America's #1 sliced apple brand. If you've ever bought the sliced apples at the grocery store that are ready to eat, a lot of times are in trays or bags or like little dipper things that kids can put in their lunchbox that have caramel or peanut butter with an apple slice. We're working with them to do a co-branded product line, the Produce Moms and Crunch Pack together. And it's, it's great. But it's, COVID-19 delayed the launch regions. We were like supposed to already be nationwide with Target, and now that probably won't happen until the summer. But we do have nationwide distribution, like Publix, for instance, in Florida is carrying all of them. Hy-Vee in the Midwest Heartland area, they're carrying all 5 SKUs. Walmart in certain divisions, and it'll be nationwide at Whole Foods, nationwide at Target. And I think I'm working on Kroger, but I think we'll get nationwide at Kroger too. They've committed to certain regions, including the Midwest. So I'm that's the biggest thing that I think we've ever done. I mean, it's amazing. And when we announced that we were doing it, I mean, we in 1 week's time sold over 2 million cases, and it was, I think that there's a real opportunity here for my brand to grow, and also work with, fruits and vegetables will always be the heart and soul. It's where this brand is rooted, but there's a lot of opportunities for the produce mom's relevancy in other consumer products or other industries. So I'm as best I can. Everything's so disrupted, but we're doing a lot of networking with other industries like cookware and, meeting more people in media and whatnot.
That's good. So one question that I had would be, as you talk about pivot and disruption, which is widely used terms in the housing industry too, but where does this impact supply and demand, and maybe even the impact of all families being at home and more home cooked meals? How does that all translate into what you do?
Yeah, so I mean, it affects it a lot, because my business is, we definitely work every day to be an indispensable part of the value chain. But at the end of the day, realtors know this, brokers know this. Marketing directly correlates with how many sales you have. It's kind of like that never-ending battle. Like, what comes first, the marketing or the sale? And in farming, right now it's hard. I mean, there's in late March, we were dumping around $6 billion worth of fruits and vegetables on a weekly basis because there was no place to send them. It's not because the farmers, no one donates more food in the United States than our farmers. So it's not because they didn't want that food in the hands of, people or the hungry or any other charitable cause. It's because we realized, you got to think about it. In early March, and really for decades before that, we were a pretty classically split industry where 50% of our product was grown for the food service channel and distributed within food service. And then 50% of it was grown, packaged, and distributed for retail. If any of you have participated in things like the Subway grocery or the Panera grocery, you're able to really identify like how we pack products very differently for retail sale versus food service sale. Very few people, I mean, we joke about like the club store packs. Those are still retail packs. Like a 2-pound bag of spinach is a retail pack. You go buy the spinach at Subway, you're getting at least a 5-pound bag of spinach, if not a 10-pound, like enormous box, So all of this product, it's grown. A lot of our crop cycles are as short as 50 days, from the time it goes in the ground to the time it's harvested and in the box and ready to be sold. So, it's a short crop cycle for most of our commodities. And most important thing to remember is it's a highly perishable product. And unlike any other product within the food and, within your whole grocery store, really, the produce department, you can't put the product in the freezer and then just thaw it out when you're ready, So I am definitely, we are just, it's been so hard for the growers because that 50-50 split of how our industry supply chains were operating really caused an instant. Like I don't know about you. I mean, for us, I felt like it happened overnight almost. Like we went from reading about something that felt far away, like, and it's like, China, do you even trust them? I mean, I don't want to get conspiracy DC on you, but it's like, God, it just didn't even feel real. And I will be the first to say, I think I've spent too much time in DC. I don't trust China at all. And so it almost just felt too foreign,
Yeah.
I was in New York City for meetings like the last week of February. It was normal. It was fine. JFK International was packed, I don't know. And I came home and the next thing I knew, it's March 15th and school's canceled and wow, restaurants are canceled, or restaurants are closed up nationwide. And what does that do to food? A lot of the food, millions of, not millions, billions of dollars of food had already been harvested, and they were in warehouses across our nation, ready to be delivered to the restaurants. And then you got to remember, a 50-day crop cycle is following it that was planted based off that restaurant demand.
Yep.
And so and it's like, what do you do? And within a few days, I mean, there were like 4 days where retail it did not feel like you were in the United States when you walked into a grocery store. There was nothing in there. And it's not just toilet paper. Like, there was nothing in the grocery store. And so I want to use this as a moment to remind everyone, food security is national security. And it's true. If anyone went grocery shopping during those 4 days of chaos before our supply chain was able to, essentially turn around the Titanic and figure out how are we going to get this food distributed, knowing that our customer base went from 50-50 to 100-0 overnight, and we had all this food that was already in that 50% food service channel. How do we redirect it without losing? Our goal was never to dump food as an industry. But during those 4 days where people, and that's been an adage in agriculture forever. It's one thing that it comes back even to the USDA's mission. It's one thing that motivates us all. And for anyone that's ever been involved in political action, or anyone that follows, like social responsibility around the world, you can probably, like, the most impoverished places in the world, it usually comes back to the fact that they're not food secure nations. And those food security is national security. And so during those 4 days, though, I mean, that's when, if we as an industry wouldn't have been able to react as quickly as we did, I mean, there were news stories. I mean, even at the Costco in, like, where I shop, there was a situation where, like, 2 people got in a fight over, like, I don't know what, one of the last items on shelf, and guns were pulled.
Wow.
I mean, that is how chaos and rioting, and our industry does not take that lightly. So it was literally working around the clock as hard as you could, knowing that you're probably not going to find a home for all this crop, but doing it anyway. And making sure that we could secure our food supply chain, because it's much deeper than just making sure everyone has food. There's a lot of reasons why. And it just comes back to the adage and the simple fact that food security is national security. And so got the food, we recovered as best we could, but a lot of that food, not all of it could be redirected. We are learning. We always appreciated our chefs, but as an industry, we're learning that the restaurant sector and chefs and events and hospitality and even in-home entertaining, which has been eliminated from our lifestyles with these shelter-in-place orders and social distancing. All of that is what drives fruit and vegetable consumption and preparations. You can probably, Chris, and a lot of our listeners today can probably identify with, moments they've had during this pandemic where they're like, yeah, like, I totally would, I prepare 1 or 2 ingredients and that's my meal, like 1 or 2 components of the meal, and that's all we eat. Whereas if you were to invite even just a family over to have a dinner party in your home, you probably would have at least, 4 courses that you would serve. Mm-hmm. You probably would have a salad or a fruit tray, or, you know what I mean? And you would definitely have a fresh vegetable side. And those are things that our industry is realizing. And it's like, wow, we need our chefs. We are such a big part of hospitality and entertainment, whether it's happening inside the home or at a hotel or at a trade event or at your favorite local restaurant, so it's been really hard. And, a lot of the stories that you're reading, especially from regions like Florida and New York, where crops were being harvested, where there's a cheaper product available from growers in Mexico, like this, we're at that time right now where Mexico's kind of finishing up, and the United States is starting, and Florida is like the first for most of the commodities. And so that also created a ton of, the markets went crazy. And drove down the value of all the prices because there was an abundant supply, and lesser demand. And then on top of that, and so then the farmer's like, what do I do? Do I add an additional multi-million-dollar cost to harvesting this field, or do I just plow over it? Because at the end of the day, we don't like to think of farming as a business, but farming's a business.
Yeah.
It's a business. It's a business that's really important, and it's a business that has a lot of goodwill behind it, but it's a business just like real estate is.
Yeah. Well, that's all good stuff. I appreciate the insight on how that business has been impacted right now. I think that's good insight for us all.
Yeah, the restaurant, you want to know the figure for the restaurants? It's almost like, I don't even like to say it out loud because it's so, and it's, how did this happen in such a short amount of time? But the National Restaurant Association is estimating $225 billion of loss.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
That's insane. Yeah. Because
in like 8 weeks time.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely put the brakes, not just on the economy, but certain sectors of the economy, obviously very much more hurt than others. And the service industry has been hit hard.
So much. And, at the beginning of all this, the cruise industry was a big part of the discussion. And Here's a little story for you. One of the growers we work with, just for romaine lettuce, just for the 2 weeks of spring break travel, just for Carnival Cruise Line. So one cruise line, 2 weeks, one crop, $10 million loss.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. And so that's and it's just, and when you think about it, anytime you've experienced those wonderful moments, whether it's you're vacationing or you're at an all-inclusive resort or you're on a cruise ship or you're at a wedding or even a funeral, like these things aren't happening. And there's always fruits and vegetables there in a pretty predominant way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Even more perspective there.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, Lori, about what folks can find on your website and what all wealth of information you have on there.
So we're all about education and inspiration. We want to educate you on any of the questions that you might have surrounding fruits and vegetables, and we want to inspire you to eat more in both volume and variety. So certainly right now you're going to find a lot of content about how the industry is responding to the pandemic, as well as a lot of the consumer inquiries or areas of confusion that have arisen because of this. I mentioned previously in the conversation about, produce is safe and healthy, okay? The virus, it is not transmitted through food or food packaging. And so we have a lot of research and we've resourced a lot of thought leaders on those kind of topics. You can learn more about farming practices. That's why I started this thing. I felt like our industry needed to be more transparent. And also these stories in American agriculture are so inspiring. I mean, it's like, we can all learn from the family that's managed to keep their family farm operational and growing it, in a monumental way year after year in the most regulated state in the union and, and still being at it despite every curveball and environmental threat, societal threat, that has been sent their way. It's some of these stories in California, like the Central Valley of California, those growers, because that was really the first area within the U.S. that was established as a high production ag region. And many of the farmers, we're talking about the grapes, the stone fruit, cattle farming and dairy, tree nuts. It's unbelievable because most of them have been in operation under their family's name since the mid 1800s. Wow. So those stories have to be told. Like it's such a place of inspiration for anyone. I don't care what industry you're in. If you can, it's as iconic as, these are contributions that I know I'm super passionate about food, but I mean, these are the same type of monumental contributions, people who are constantly evolving the same way that like a very recognizable company like Ford has been for our nation. These are innovators. These are people who have figured out how to farm for a monumental, more, rising population with less land.
Yeah.
and also figuring out, how am I going to do this by using less water? You know, how am I going to do this by, how am I going to keep the pests off the crops and use less pesticide? You know, they know consumers don't like pesticide. Guess what? Newsflash, farmers don't either, because it's money. It's additional, like it's millions of dollars for them to spray the crops. They don't want that. And they eat the food too. Like no one wants that. So so there's a lot of innovation right now in biopesticides, and it's incredible when you really dive into the precision, the technology, the innovation that exists within agriculture. I went to CES 2020, which was obviously before all the trade shows were canceled, but that's the Consumer Electronics Show. It's every tech brand in the world. I mean, it's the biggest trade event I've ever been to. And there was a huge component of this year at CES dedicated to agriculture. First time ever. You know, John Deere was there, had a huge booth. You know, a lot of like the Produce Marketing Association, which is one reason I was there, all the people that are involved with robotics and drones. This is technology that is by and large dominated by agriculture. You know, it was developed in a way for, so all of your real estate agents who are capturing that incredible footage of your listings on drones, thank a farmer.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt.
But you know, I really enjoyed sharing. You know, the producemoms.com, there's something for everyone on there. If you want recipes, we got you covered. If you want to know more about these stories that obviously move my soul that I can't stop talking about, we've got them documented and archived on the website. We got a lot of information and content surrounding how to select, how to store, and how to serve your fruits and vegetables. That educational component is one reason, I think it's one reason we're all creatures of habit when we get into the produce department. We buy the same 5 to 10 items every single time we're grocery shopping. Yet the produce department has, on average, 200 SKUs. So there's a lot to explore. So we've really tried to make sure that our website can provide you with that entire path to purchase journey, like from seed to smile when you bring it home. And that really actually starts even at the grocery store. How do I know, what am I looking for? Like if I want to buy a fresh artichoke, what should it look like on shelf, you know? And then when I get it home, does it go in the countertop or in the fridge or in the pantry? Like where do I store it? And then how do I prep it, you know? And we walk you through that whole journey.
That's awesome. And then the name of your podcast that you guys have?
The Produce Moms Podcast. And I don't know when this episode is going to air, Chris, but I just recorded episode 97, so we're gearing up for episode 100. Can't wait for that. Yeah. Started our podcast in 2018. I applaud you for starting yours. Nothing will build your business like a podcast, and help, and you know, providing a platform for people to share their story. It really positions you as a brilliant networker and a thought leader in your space, and you know, you're providing a unique sense of community to everyone that you work with. And you know, the podcast has been a great tool for the Produce Moms. I love hosting the podcast.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, Lori, thank you for today. You've been a great brand, and not just locally, obviously, but globally, an advocate for the agricultural industry, a mom herself, and someone that's very passionate. I can tell from how you lead, you know, from the front, and really, you know, seek to serve others. So thank you for sharing that with us today. It's great having you on, and really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. I'm so proud of you too. We've come a long way since Roncalli 1999. Chris and I are high school classmates. We haven't even established that yet, but yeah. And my maiden name was Paul, so our lockers were always by each other too. It felt like. But
that's right.
It's been great following your success and all that you do, and it was very honored to be a guest on the podcast. So thank you for thinking of me.
All right. Well, thank you, Lori, and everybody watching this. Go check out her website. Wealth of knowledge on there. Thank you, guys.
Yes.